Welcome, one and all, to episode number 15 of the Solo Gamer Podcast, live from Silent Hills, Washington.
Whoa. What a twist.
It looks like Silent Hill out there, man.
I know. That's crazy. You sent me a picture of what's going on in your neck of the woods. No pun intended. But yeah, it's looking pretty crazy.
It's way worse than when I sent that picture now.
Oh, it's gotten even worse than that.
Oh, significantly. Oh, yeah. By the way, my name is Ian, and this is Taylor.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. How's it going?
It's going okay. So I had a road trip today, which is why we ended up delaying this podcast, because yesterday was all crazy, and it's been a crazy couple of days for me. But I had to drive to Seattle to go pick up my pooter for a new job. And so, as everyone probably knows, there's giant fires ravaging the entire West Coast, including Washington State. And so there's this like number, it's called air quality index. And like 100 and above is considered not great, like unhealthy.
Yeah.
It's like, so if you have 120, Seattle's air quality was like 154 today. So which is like not good. It's unhealthy.
Definitely.
It's almost 500 here in Wenatchee.
That's absolutely nuts. Yeah.
I drove back into town. It's the worst day so far. I drove back into town. I got out to fill up my car with gas, and I had a really hard time breathing. My throat was on fire, and I was coughing, and I had to like hold my breath and get back into the car as soon as possible.
Yeah, that's absolutely crazy. I was it's funny that you bring that up, actually. So, obviously football's back and everybody's excited about that.
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah, woo. NFL football. I'm sure everybody is stoked out there. Every single one of our listeners is excited about that. But in any case, they were talking about the air quality index, actually, because my Arizona Cardinals were playing the San Francisco 49ers in week 1. And one of the things that was kind of being closely monitored was the air quality index of San Francisco, or Santa Clara. And apparently, like you mentioned, 100 and above is going to be unhealthy. And then they were saying that if it was 150 and above, that players who were asthmatic or had respiratory issues to already begin with, or like pre-existing conditions, couldn't even play. So there was like a number of players who didn't even get to really suit up that morning because they had breathing issues and the air quality wasn't good. So if you can only imagine asthmatic people not being able to play in 150 AQI.
It is 481 right now.
Yeah, I couldn't even imagine. That is crazy.
It's like putting your face into a fucking muffler and turning the car on.
Jeez. Absolutely nuts. Well,
so
I know we have some people that are listening kind of all over, mostly West Coast, I think. So I hope everybody is, of course, staying safe out there, and you guys
stay inside.
Sending
Do
some
not walk your dogs.
Yeah, sending some positive vibes to everybody. Hope everybody's safe.
Yeah, it's been crazy, but you know what? I'm inside. I'm playing video games, motherfuckers.
Right, the videos.
That's what. The vidus, playing the video games. That's what I'm going to sound like after this is over, because my throat will be so damaged that I'm just going to sound like this.
You'll get the new age Miley Cyrus voice now, where it's very.
I'm going to sound like one of those ladies who I want some Virginia Slims.
Have you heard what
trailer?
I know this is totally off topic, but have you heard what Miley Cyrus sounds like now?
No,
like voice wise.
She
has kind of one of those voices, that very like gruff sounding, like Janis Joplin sort of voice.
Yeah.
And to this totally non sequitur, but I heard her on Joe Rogan's podcast like a couple weeks ago. She was like a special guest, and I was like, wow, talk about a complete 180 in terms of like voice. But it sounds good on her. No complaints. I was like, wow, interesting.
Yeah, it's not like a gross, because like the kind of voice that I'm referring to is instantly unattractive in every possible way.
Yeah.
You're just like, you can immediately picture this hardened, homely ratty looking woman who's like in her 50s and looks like she's 78.
Right. Yeah. Smokes.
Battered.
Smokes
weather
couple
battered
packs
face,
a day.
smoking. Yeah, a couple packs a day. Exactly. All that kind of just.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there is a benefit in some way.
It in a dirty microwave.
Usually, I found that singers that kind of have that voice kind of have like a really appealing singing voice, in my opinion. So hey, it might be a benefit in some way.
Yeah, it could be. I don't know any of those people who are singing, but they could be.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
I don't know if they probably don't have the lung capacity to even like get a song going, you know?
All right. After one 3-minute song, you're just completely out of breath.
That's it. I'm dead.
End of the set.
So, yeah, so this has been crazy, and now I am all locked up indoors, and safe and sound, and just been playing some games this week. Been playing all kinds of different games. How about you, man? Are you still doing the WoW thing, or have you been playing anything else?
Yeah, definitely still playing a lot of WoW. I slowed up a little bit on it, but one of the things I've been trying to focus on now is it's been kind of a multi-week saga of me unlocking some of these allied races so I can re-roll and play as different characters. But there's a system in the new expansion they call Pathfinder, which is basically... So to break it down, it's kind of like you have ground mounts and you have flying mounts in World of Warcraft. And one of the things that they did in this new expansion, Battle for Azeroth, is they lock the flying mounts behind this Pathfinder that you have to get, which is like completing a certain number of quests in an area and earning a certain amount of reputation with a couple different factions. And then they allow you to use your flying mount in the main areas. And you can still get around in those different continents on your ground mounts, but as anybody who plays World of Warcraft knows, it's a lot faster to get around with a flying mount. And if you unlock the Pathfinder for one of your characters, I'm pretty sure it unlocks for everybody on that realm. So that'll make things a lot easier when I'm going back through on an alternate character. And so that way, if I'm grinding rep or whatever, I can just hop on my flying mount and just start flying. So that's pretty much what I've been working on, but it's kind of a lot of just little grinding here and there and some busy work and some PvP until Shadowlands comes out. So that's kind of mainly what I've been focusing on. But how's your week looked video game wise?
Well, I'm kind of bouncing. I'm in one of those bounce modes. I have been for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Usually just kind of the way I am after I play a couple big games through. And so I've started Sekiro after our conversation last week.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
Made some progress. I've beaten a couple bosses, and I'm kind of at like the first real big boss.
Mm-hmm.
And I've only even tried to fight her the one time, and I was like, yeah, I'm just not... My character's just not ready for this. So I just kind of went back and finding some extra items and stuff, and extra... The way the game works is like you have to find a certain amount of items to upgrade your overall health and other passive upgrades like that. So I'm just trying to kind of go around the beginning intros of the map and different intro areas, and just kind of finding anything I left behind to upgrade my character and just help a little bit with that fight.
Yeah,
So
that makes
I
sense.
haven't played for a couple days.
You said, I think last time we talked, you said you were on Lady Butterfly, right?
Yes. Yep, that's right.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
Yeah, but I'm not sitting here dying and over, and I can't do it. I have barely even fought her. I fought her the one time. I was like, I don't even want to put myself through this right now.
Right. Well, you made it farther than I did in your first playthrough, so there you go. Well, I guess it's not your first, or maybe it is. I forgot exactly. But
yeah, it's
my
first time playing through it. Yeah.
I made it to the first guy on the horse with the giant spear, and that's where I stopped. So you already made it farther than me in your initial attempt. So
yeah, I killed there's like a giant fucking samurai on a super big horse. Took him down.
Yeah, that was the guy that killed me. Or that's the guy I was stuck on.
You were stuck on him?
Yep.
Yeah. I just, the way I went about it was that I didn't there's a certain upgrade you can get that makes that fight a lot easier, and I already had it by the time I made it to him. I was like, oh, this helps. And then I fought, there's another like giant, fat, drunk sumo wrestler guy with a huge sword, and he drinks and throws up on you and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So I took that dude out. And then there's like this kind of like a mini boss. It's like a big troll that's all trussed up to this, like, you know, those, like a stock, you know, like the stocks that they put around your,
where you're like
in the middle of the town square, where
throw
they have
apples
the
at
beef
you,
and the stalks,
tomatoes.
Yeah. There's like this giant who's stuck in one of those, and he gets out. And then I also fought a bull that they attach like these flaming, like these rolls of hay to his horns and they light them on fire. So I fought him and I took him out. So I've taken down like 3 or 4 between medium and small bosses.
Yeah, there you go. You're making some steady progress there. So.
Yeah, I'm making some progress. I get really upset with that game. Like more so than even like Bloodborne for some reason. It just really gets to me sometimes, so I have to take pretty frequent breaks from it. But that's the same with Bloodborne in the sense that it took me like 8 months to beat Bloodborne because I would play it and I would make real progress in a week or two, and then I was like, I just can't, I gotta stop. I just can't play this. And I would come back like a month later and like relearn all the controls and get right back into it and make more progress. And this is kind of how I play those games, and this is the way that I get through them. I can't just sit. I don't understand how anyone would be like, oh, yeah, I played it for like 40 hours in a week. I'm like, oh, my God. I just get way too stressed out for that.
Yeah, no, I feel the same way. I have kind of like a threshold where like if I just get way too frustrated, the same thing kind of happens to me, where it's kind of like, you know, I got to take a break or something and come back to it like a week later. And usually the case is that, you know, if I step away from it from a while, like a couple days or a week or so, I can come back with kind of a clearer head, and it usually ends up being a little bit easier to fight whatever it is when I come back from that. But those particular games is a little bit different because it's like you said, you have to kind of relearn the controls. You got to kind of relearn how everything works. I don't know. With those particular games, it's almost like a muscle for me. If I'm not using it, I just lose it, you know, and my skills atrophy.
I tend to get them back. That's like one of the few things where I don't really, it comes back to me like really quickly once I might die once or twice and be like, oh yeah, that's right. And then, I don't know, it's right back to it. And that might be because I just don't have a very high ceiling to reach each time because I'm not that good at them.
Right. Well, so interesting news actually in the Sekiro front. So, it looks like I'm going to have to beat Sekiro now.
It looks like someone made an ass of themselves.
Yeah, I made a huge ass of myself. So, for people who were listening to one of our previous episodes, actually, it was last episode. It wasn't even that long ago. I made a bet with a buddy, Zach of mine, who is a big Nintendo fan, and I basically told him, like, there's no way that you can beat any FromSoft game. I was like, try out Sekiro. And I was like, if you beat Sekiro, I have zero excuse not to play through and beat that game. So, lo and behold, he stuck to it. He got completely addicted to it. He was actually streaming it for a lot of this week, and I would kind of go in there and watch him play it, and it was kind of fun just to kind of have him experience it. It's always kind of cool when I can, as like a side note, when I can watch somebody get kind of addicted to a game and just really be like, wow, you know, like I never thought I could really get into something like this. And he was one of those people, like he's kind of one of those people where he's a little closed off to new video games or kind of new genres. So he always wrote off the From Software games as just kind of being not for him. And then when he finally got to sit down and play it, he was like every day this week he'd be like his girlfriend would go to bed and he'd be like, hey man, I'm gonna stream Sekiro, come watch me. And I was like, all right, sure. So I hop on and, you know, we're in there hanging out for like 3 hours on end as he's just blasting through bosses, and it was crazy. So he actually beat the game 2 days ago, and I was like, well, shit, I guess now it's my turn. So
was he talking shit the whole time?
Because
I would have been.
he was he talks shit a little bit. He's a good friend in the sense that like if he didn't make me eat too much crow about it, because I think the experience for him was like, hey, I got to try something new and find a game and genre of games that I didn't think I would like. So he walked away from it more saying like, oh, now I want to play all these other From Software games, instead of being like, fuck you, Taylor, you're an asshole. So so I guess that worked in my favor.
I wouldn't have been able to. I would have been like, I mean, I wouldn't have been calling you an asshole, but there would have been a little bit too much satisfaction gleamed from being told I couldn't beat this game or would never beat this game, and then just beating it like in a week.
Yeah, to be fair, to come to my own defense, so Zach is one of my best friends. I mean, we've been friends since we were little kids, and same with my roommate. We're kind of this trio of childhood friends. And the thing I've noticed about my roommate and my buddy Zach is that they're the kind of people that if you tell them they can't do something, they will do it just to spite you. And
so just tell them they can't, that they'll never be able to beat Witcher.
Exactly.
help them out.
Right. Yes. Show them the light. Right. So
do a guy a favor,
huh? Exactly. So I use, to go back to the point, I use that as kind of like a reverse psychology to like get them to go outside of their comfort zone and experience things that they wouldn't otherwise try themselves. So
hopefully they don't hear this podcast, because then they'll know your tactics.
No, they know this about me for sure. I've like admitted to them. I'm like, I hope you know I'm not being like a dick, just to be a dick, like I'm trying to get you to do something new, but it works. So,
but there was a part of you that actually didn't think he'd do it.
No, I didn't think so, honestly. I thought for sure he would get farther than I would in the game initially, and then just stop playing. Like something would come up. The Super Mario All-Stars 3D would come out and he would drop it. So I was proven wrong. So I will attempt to try and beat Sekiro before this year ends. So stick around for that, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I want to definitely want to pick up a video card so that I can stream my console games with all my Twitch stuff.
Yeah, I kind of want to do the same thing.
Overlay and cameras and all that stuff. So it's definitely an expense that'll be worth it, I think, eventually. But yeah, just to be able to play those console games, because I like still having the games on my consoles and being able to get the achievements and stuff like that. I just don't really care about Steam achievements at all. I definitely don't care about Epic achievements or whatever they're called.
Epic has achievements?
I don't know, but I'm just saying if they do, or when they do, I'm not going to care either way.
Yeah, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, you're right. I don't even think they have them. But if they did, I wouldn't care.
Right? Yeah.
I've been playing Crusader Kings 3 as well.
Oh, still going on. Nice.
Yeah, still playing that. That game is super cool.
How
it's so awesome.
So where were you? I know that when I was watching you stream it about a week ago or so, and I think you were playing through kind of the tutorial. So did you stick with the same faction, or did you go to a new one?
Yeah, I kept playing that tutorial. I played it up until the point where my original king, he was basically the way the game works is that all the different characters. So you take over whatever person. So he's like starts out as like a lord of a single county in a kingdom or whatnot. So by the end of it, I had taken over half of Ireland, and he was this strategic genius. He was a marshal. He's a warrior king. His soldiers loved him, and we won this huge battle against our rivals, and we captured their castle and took some of the family members prisoner, and there was a huge celebration, and people got drunk, and there was some infighting because of the drunk, and my king in the trying to stop the fight got hurt. Whoa. And not horribly, but enough to where he then caught an infection and died from his wounds at like 40.
Oh, dang.
and then my son took over, and like none of my council likes him. But like this is the kind of thing that happens when you play this game. Like these are the kind of like stories that it's just all of these sort of emergent storytelling things that come up as you play the game, and you get attached to all these different characters, and they take on personalities of their own, and it's really cool. It's like a Game of Thrones simulator.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But in real life, but actual history.
Right. Yeah, that was one of the things that kind of really interested me about the game when I first kind of realized what it was and sort of how it worked. I'm interested to see with that game all of the different mods that'll come out for it, because I know that obviously there's going to be a Game of Thrones one, if there isn't one already. But I saw that somebody made a Vampire the Masquerade mod for the game, and it was like,
that's interesting.
Yeah, you like play as like these different like vampire lords, and same sort of thing happens where you have kind of like a line of succession, and there's like kings and vassals and stuff like that. It's super interesting, and I always thought that game had probably one of the more robust modding scenes out there. So that was kind of another one of the things that drew me to it, was just the possibilities of how many other universes you could base that gameplay out of, and all the different things you could do.
Yeah, I could see that game being pretty easy to mod. It's a very simple game.
Yeah.
It's not a lot of graphical things happening.
No, not really. I think on the Vampire the Masquerade one I saw, the only thing that bothered me about it was that they didn't really update, like there weren't like new character models for any of these characters, and I get that that's super difficult to do, obviously, especially in this new one, because I've seen the character models look, really detailed and stuff. But it was basically like Vampire the Masquerade based in the text and the map and in the universe, but all of the characters pretty much looked like what you'd expect. Yeah.
Yeah,
So.
that would take longer. There probably will be a mod for that down the line, but that wouldn't be one that would get created early on. So.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, definitely worth it. If you have, goddamn, Ultimate, this is, segues coming up right here. Oh, man, I was going to say Xbox Game Pass Ultimate is totally worth the price of admission, because I'm playing games on PC, I'm playing games on Xbox. It's just crazy the amount of games you have access to for the minimal amount of money, and including new games that come out.
Yeah.
So
brand
Crusader
new.
Kings, Paradox, they made a deal with Microsoft, and you can get their game with Game Pass on the Xbox app on PC. So
that's
how I've been playing it. Yeah, it's been fantastic.
I love it.
Just so glad that they have that. I just can't wait to see that continue to expand.
And then they announced that EA is going to bring their subscription service over to Game Pass as well. So you'll get access to some of the catalog of those games, like the Respawn games and stuff like that, which will be really cool.
Yeah. Everyone who hasn't played Jedi Fallen Order no longer has an excuse.
Battlefront, all the ones.
Yeah, Battlefront 2's on there. And then later on, I think as the sports games get a little bit older, they'll put them up so you can play them as well.
Yeah, so you don't have to buy it. You don't have to buy Madden 21 right off the bat, guys. Don't do it.
As long as you can wait for a while. Because you can only play like the new sports games for 10 hours or whatever without upping your subscription level to EA Play Pro or whatever bullshit it is.
Yeah.
But at least I know at some point, maybe after this football season's over or whatever, the newest Madden will be available to play, unlimited on Game Pass. That'd
right.
be cool.
Or what you could do if you really want to hack the system, guys, if you really want to go through some backdoor methods, what you do is you get the last installment of Madden, you go onto the community files and you download a roster from a really passionate fan who does all of the free agent trades and signings and draft picks, and then you just play a season with that updated roster. Boom.
Small tangent about that. We will not spend very much time because I know not everyone cares about sports games. I'm going to be real quick about this, but you need to know this. TFG is a YouTuber, that franchise guy.
Yep, I download his rosters.
Okay. His rosters are the best because they're all the scores are all stretched out, which is what I like. So like a player in the low 70s, high 60s is like a everyday, regular old starter.
Mm-hmm.
That just makes the game so much better.
Yeah, it really does.
There's only like 10 players that are 90 or higher in the whole league.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think that rating system makes a little bit more sense. But
it does.
Yeah, that's literally my strategy for the last couple of years, is because I will say I do have kind of a guilty pleasure for Madden games, but I don't buy the newest edition of it. I just play the older editions and then just download community rosters, and then there you go. And
yeah, I'd love to do it'd be cool if we have enough like fans. If we had enough football fans, it'd be cool to do like a big online franchise.
That would be really cool. I'd be down for that.
It'd be a lot of fun. But the original segue was all about Xbox. That's what this episode is all about. We wanted to talk Xbox both because, well, primarily because we got a bunch of news for the new Xbox Series X and S coming out November 10th of this year.
Mm-hmm.
And while we are not necessarily a gaming news or current events podcast, I think it's still important to talk about what's coming up, and it also gave us an excuse to kind of go back and talk about some good memories we have with the platform as a whole.
Yeah.
So we're like, there we go. Let's do that. So I don't know how much write-in we got this week from people.
I got 3. So I got 3 responses
3?
we can read off.
Okay, cool. So would any of them work to kind of kick us off, or are they more specific and we're going to wait until we get more further into it?
It seems like a lot of the ones we got in this week are based around kind of memories of Xbox, if I'm remembering right. Let's see.
Are you remembering the memories?
I hope so.
He hasn't even begun to start.
Yeah, so we got 3. They're a little bit lengthy, so it'd take me a second to really run through and make sure that they all are
right
on topic. So
yeah, well, make sure these people are doing their homework and not writing into us about PS2 on Xbox week.
No, there's definitely none of that. Everybody was good about being
kidding.
on theme, so
they just wrote in, it's like, what are your favorite Xbox memories? They're like, Final Fantasy on PS2 was good.
Right.
Like, what? Oh my god, I have a large Labrador puppy trying to crawl underneath my legs between my PC because she lost her bone in the corner. And I'm just trying to let her through without making a ton of ruckus that the entire world can pick up.
I heard a little jingle jangle there for a second.
Yeah,
of the collar.
That was a pup trying to get her bone.
A doggo, if you will.
A doggo, yes, that's the millennial term for it, apparently.
Yeah.
We dirty millennials, us. So let's talk a little bit about the new Xbox stuff. November 10th as a release date. I'm pumped for that. That's right where we kind of thought it would be.
Yeah, I was thinking, somewhere around that time. I was actually thinking maybe like 15th or 20th. I think that they Xbox, that is, had done a really good job of kind of, even if they hadn't told us the release date, I think that November was kind of the only natural place that your mind would go when you were thinking about when these consoles would get released. I also think that they were strategically, both Xbox and PlayStation, making sure that this console would release right around the same time as Cyberpunk. So I think there was a direct correlation between when Cyberpunk was coming out and when these systems were dropping, which, I think Cyberpunk is obviously going to be the biggest game of the year in terms of, just word of mouth it has, how many people are going to be playing it. So that was kind of the line that we drew to that. So when they finally dropped the date on this, I wasn't completely surprised.
And did you see that Assassin's Creed Valhalla adjusted their release date to come out the day and date with the system?
Oh, that I didn't hear, actually. I thought it would come out in November, but I didn't know that.
It was originally slated to come out 1 day or 2 days before Cyberpunk.
Oh,
because remember we were talking about that and we were like, oh my God, they're coming out one right after the other. Now we get a week.
That's crazy.
I'm gonna try and Odyssey took me eons to beat, but I'm gonna try and beat Valhalla in a week. So there's so many questions within this. So we have this console launching on the 10th of November. Every time I say anything of November, my brain is just like trying to break my skull open and force me to go, remember the 5th of November.
Yeah.
It's like, stop it, Guy Fawkes.
Get out of my head.
So I'm they have the Series S and the Series X coming out. The Series X, it's interesting because basically they both have the same amount of processing power.
Yeah.
The difference is that the Series S will not be able to push the same amount of resolution. So you should be able to get 120 frames a second on if you're a multiplayer. If you're going to be someone who's going to play Destiny and Rainbow Six, you should just get the S.
Yeah.
Because it's only $299, and you're still going to get the power, the raw computing power of the X. You're just not going to get as powerful of a GPU.
Right.
What do you think of this idea of releasing two SKUs of one console that are almost like an iPhone whatever number and then an iPhone whatever number S? Like, that's the first time we've really seen that. We've seen Slims come out later or whatever, but they've always been the same technical systems. Yeah, Pros that come out later. That was kind of the first thing, but this is like right from the beginning. We've got multiple SKUs for one console.
Yeah, it's certainly an interesting idea. I really like this idea, actually. I'm obviously, if I'm going to choose which one here, I'm going to go the Series X, just because...
Oh, yeah, me too.
It comes with a disc drive. You know, everybody knows by now that I like my physical stuff, so I want to be able to have that. But I think it's a great idea. I think you release a console that's half the price of the regular model, and I think you're going to get a lot of people who just are like, hey, $300 is a really good price point for me to jump in and play this. You know, I don't own any physical media, and I just want to be able to get in on the fun and not really spend a whole lot of money. I think is a really good idea. I think for a standard model, I didn't think that there was any way we were going to get out of paying $500 for this console, just with the specs that it does have and sort of that raw computing power that you mentioned earlier. I would foresee at this point in time we don't have a price on PlayStation 5, but I would assume that you know,
be in the same neighborhood, right?
It's got to be right around there, I would say.
Yeah, I think $500 is totally reasonable.
Definitely.
Given just still thinking about PS3 coming out at $600 originally.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how insane does that seem now?
Yeah, $599 US.
$599 in 2006.
Yeah,
so
absolutely nuts.
It's the ball is in our court in the sense as far as the consumers. Like, that's an incredible deal for these consoles. They are definitely taking a loss on this.
Yeah, I think so. But I also think, too, one of the things that they kind of have the edge on is if they're selling their digital model at half the price, I don't think the PlayStation 5's digital model is going to be that cheap. I don't
think it's going to be $300. I agree.
No, I think it's going to be...
It might have to be
$400,
now.
Yeah.
Do you think they adjust? They were playing chicken. And that's the other thing about this I don't understand. Xbox did not come out and announce this. It got leaked, and then Xbox said, screw it, and gave the rest of the information out.
Yeah.
Why? It worked out great. Everyone was like, wow, these are great deals. Not to mention, well, we'll get into this next part here, but I don't know why they just wouldn't tell us that. I think there was plenty of opportune moments to give us this information, and then they just waited so long that it leaked.
Yeah, it almost makes you wonder if this wasn't planned, if it wasn't like an intentional, like, hey, let's see if we can try and leak this, you know, in some weird roundabout way. It makes you think, when were we going to get this news originally? Because, I mean, we're not far away from November. I mean, we're We're knocking on its doorstep, basically.
Yeah.
And if had it not leaked, if it was completely unintentional, it just makes you wonder, like, when were we going to get this news? Because it was basically just, like you said, both of these companies playing chicken until one person decides to release their prices. So
yeah, we're less than 2 months away from the launch of this thing.
Yeah, I mean, and I would say like a month ago or a month and a half ago, we really didn't know almost anything about it, so.
Yeah. And I will say this too. Obviously, there's plenty of people who are not planning on getting an Xbox, but we have discussed prior, which one do you think you'll get first if they were to come out the same day or the same week? Mm-hmm. And we went back and forth and, based on the games, and I think we probably were going to go PlayStation, but I'm most definitely going to get an Xbox first because they've introduced the Microsoft Xbox All Access thing, which is also how I purchased my Xbox One X that I have, which is a 2-year, $35 a month, no interest loan, basically.
Yeah.
You pay it off, you get the Xbox Game Pass Ultimate and the console. You end up actually saving $5, which is, I know, not a lot, but you're not paying interest. You actually end up saving $5, and it's $35 a month, or you can pay it off faster, or whatever you want to do. But the thing is, like, to me, that makes this so accessible. Why would I not do that? Why would anyone who can afford that not do that?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, even if you paid just half of it, you do it in, a month or 2-month installments. You pay the first half up front and then
half, quarter, $100 a month, whatever you want to do. It wouldn't take long.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a smart thing to do, especially with kind of the current financial space that we find ourselves in as a world and a country. I think it's certainly a smart thing to do to be able to offer those options. And I hope PlayStation kind of offers the same thing. So
I hope they do too. Apparently GameStop is offering their own stuff as well, but they've gone into the world of credit and credit cards and all that stuff before, and it was not good. Their interest rate was really crazy.
Yeah, it was astronomical.
So those are things to consider. I don't trust GameStop. I mean, they're a failing company. They lost another $100 million this last month.
Yeah, crazy.
So they're going down. So whatever you do, don't get mixed up. Whoever, listeners, if you're planning on doing this, don't get the GameStop plans. Get the Xbox All Access if you decide to do that. And the same deal for the S, except for it's $25 a month. So I just think it's brilliant. I love it. I think it's really pro-consumer. And there's a part of me that kind of hopes people say nah to Xbox as kind of seems that is kind of the thing. Like everyone, there's not enough exclusives or whatever. It's like, please, I'm hoping that there's going to be some around because I'm going to get one day one if I can.
Oh, yeah. No, I am too.
November 10th. Cool. I really like the look of the Series X too. I just like that tall, rectangular monolith looking thing. Yeah. It reminds me of 2001 Space Odyssey.
Right. Well, I think it looks, at least aesthetically, it's perfect to kind of how I liken the Xbox as a brand, because I've always kind of looked at Xbox as sort of the console extension of sort of like a PC. And now we're kind of getting to the point where, the consoles are reflecting PC. I mean, it literally looks like a PC tower, I love the way it looks.
Like a little mini PC tower. It's awesome.
Yeah, I love it. And, you flip it up, around the backside and you can see all the USB ports. I mean, literally like my computer that's sitting here, my desktop right next to me looks like a somewhat larger Xbox Series X. So, yeah, I love the design as well. Very sleek.
I think I'm going to make a little video that's like in my room with the light turned off, and then I'm going to start playing that music. And then flip the light switch on.
Yeah. Here it is, introducing
little monkeys around it, like the gorillas, the apes.
Yeah.
2001 Space Odyssey, all dancing around the monolith.
So good.
But yeah, I'm excited, man. I think it's gonna be really cool. I feel like Microsoft was putting more money into new IPs that are gonna be exclusive. I mean, I don't know if you consider it exclusive. It's
You're right
My
there?
God, I'm pretty sure I just had a stroke.
Yeah.
I just had a stroke. I died, was resurrected, and now have superpowers, I'm going to remove the smoke from the air and have the PS5 launch tomorrow.
That's very one. That's very environmentally conscious of you, but two, thank you for getting these consoles into our hands quicker.
Yeah, smoke and flame. That'll take precedent, and then I'll go ahead and get these consoles out, and I'm going to make the PS5 $2.99.
Yes.
And then Sony will collapse
right in my budget.
Economically. It'll be the last PlayStation we ever get.
All right.
But it's $2.99. You can find it in your couch. Okay, sorry, way huge tangent there. Yeah, I want to. I want to see how exclusivity is defined with this generation, because with Xbox, they're going to have things that are exclusive to their ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
But do you consider an exclusive it's on PC and their console?
I would say so. I mean, I think you're going to see a lot of that going forward, even not just outside of Xbox. I think PlayStation's starting to make that sort of a thing as well. But I would say, it still counts as an exclusive as long as you play it on, your console, right? Like, I can't take my Xbox Series X disc and put it into a PS5, right? Like, that is how I judge what an exclusive is going to be. And I think PC is just kind of where both, both sides meet in the middle, I guess. It's like the DMZ or something. Like, that's where they're bringing the two powers together to cooperate, is in the PC space. So,
sure. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm excited to see how that works out. I think Microsoft is going to start turning out some good content, and they have a lot of new studios, and I think this will be a good generation for them. I'm excited as an Xbox player. I think the future is really bright. I love the ecosystem. I love the UI, both on my PC and on the One. I love the controller. I'm just down. I'm just down to play more games in that little gaming universe that Microsoft has built.
Exactly. Couldn't agree more.
So the other part that we wanted to kind of celebrate Xbox this week is that universe that they've built so far. It might not be anywhere near the epic collection of IPs that Nintendo and Sony have, but it's a lot newer, and it does have a couple of the biggest modern gaming series in its name. What's like the one or two biggest, most distinct Xbox experiences and memories that you have, going all the way back to OG Xbox and all the way up to Xbox One?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think obviously the two franchises that I really think of when I think Xbox is I mean, it's not anything out of the ordinary. I'm not pulling from, an unknown, uncharted well, really, but Halo and Gears of War, I think, were the two biggest ones for me that you think of green, you think of Xbox, you think Halo, and Gears of War. And I mean, just so many great memories with playing Halo, and whether you're talking about a really good single player campaign or really fun multiplayer. I kind of got my start in Halo on Halo 2, and that was actually the first online console game I had ever played up until that point. And I just remember, spending hours of my life in middle school and even before that playing a bunch of Halo and drinking Mountain Dew and and things like that.
Do you remember? That's actually one of the memories that I have of the Xbox experience. Do you remember Game Fuel?
I do, yeah.
Mountain Dew Game Fuel.
Yeah, I remember that they really leaned into it with the marketing back then too. I mean, you had like the different flavors and stuff of Mountain Dew, and then I think wasn't there some kind of promotion where if you got like if you got a Mountain Dew bottle and like on the inside of the cap there'd be some code that you could redeem something. Do you have memories of that?
Yeah, well, you could either buy like the 12-pack of cans, and there would be like a tab on the inside of the box that you or be on the can or something like that. You could win like the they were giving away that really cool Halo themed Xbox 360. The Master Chief matte green with the shiny chrome orange
Yeah.
highlights. They were giving that away with those cans of soda, or like you said, the bottles or whatever. That was the big thing they were pushing.
Right. That's so crazy. I got to think that Mountain Dew saw a huge, surge of popularity during that time. Like, I think...
I feel like that almost made Mountain Dew popular.
That's what I was thinking. I mean, I don't think it really entered into people's, consciousness until Halo and Halo 2, right? Like, I couldn't...
Absolutely. It's intrinsically tied. In my brain, the marketing worked really well. I was the right age to be subjected to soda ads, one.
Right. So true.
But I will forever, even now, there's a kind of warm, homey feeling. Like when a new Halo game comes out, I have a little tradition. I get some Mountain Dew every time. I mean,
what's your favorite flavor?
Honestly, boring. I like the original,
just the OG.
The best. I do enjoy Code Red, but Code Red is a little like too cloyingly sweet sometimes. Like I enjoy it for a little bit, and then by the end of it, I feel like sick.
Gosh,
it's so sweet.
It is very sweet. Yeah, Code Red. Oh, so good. I have a soft spot for that. I don't drink soda anymore, but when I think about relapsing and going back into it, I'm like, oh man, like a Mountain Dew or like a Code Red just sounds so. Even just talking about it right now, I'm like, oh, it sounds so good. But
when Halo Infinite comes out, I'm just gonna get a tall can of Mountain Dew. It's just the one, and I'm gonna start the campaign and be drinking and sip on it. That's just
right.
It's just what I got to do.
I think I will too. Experience. Actually, maybe that's when I'll break my Mountain Dew fast.
We should maybe we can play Halo Infinite together. That'd be fun.
That would be insanely fun. I'd love to do that.
Yeah, so that we'll plan on doing that. If we can get more than 2 players cooperatively, my buddy and I, my oldest friend and I are slowly, when we both get days off and the same time off and all that, we've been playing through all the Halo games in preparation for Halo Infinite coming out, which we got a lot more time now.
Yeah, you got plenty of time. What game are you guys on?
3.
Okay.
Yeah, we're getting close to the end of 3. It's been a few weeks. It's been almost a month since we played, actually. It's been a crazy month for me. But, yeah, it's just that's what Halo's always been about for me. As much as I do love the story, I think the lore is very, very interesting and fascinating and unique. I don't think it doesn't ever feel like it's trying to copy. I think Halo has a feel and an atmosphere and a sound and a look that is just its own. I immediately think of Halo. I suppose the one thing they kind of took like the Space Marine idea and the dropship from Aliens. I mean, they said as much. They were like, we love the movie Aliens. We totally just took that right out of it. But that's fun. That's a cool inspiration. But yeah, Halo has this weird double thing for me because on one end, the story and Spartan 117, John 117, and Cortana and Sergeant Johnson, and just like all of the great storylines and Guilty Spark and all of this, the music of Halo is so important to that.
Oh yeah,
to that franchise. There's that part of it. And then there's the completely other social aspect of, like, as you were saying, when we were kids, getting together, playing these games, having 4 players, split screen and hooking up LAN parties with your Xboxes and having tournaments. I mean, all of that. So it's like this, it's got this dual layers to it of the memories. It's just, there's so much Halo in our past.
I know. Tons of it, yeah.
Hard to beat that one. I don't think that you can ever have this conversation without starting with Halo.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's kind of like you said. It's one of those sci-fi properties that is so its own thing. I really don't think, at least in my opinion, early in Halo, that you could have put a screenshot of Halo up or a screenshot of another game and had it look exactly the same. It has that look and that feel that you just don't get with any other games. I can't really say the same for most of the newer games. I feel like Honestly, in certain situations, for me, the one I always think of is if you took a screenshot from like Halo 4 or 5 and you put it up against like Destiny or something, I might be a little confused, like the weapons might give it away because Halo's been using a lot of the same weaponry for a really long time. I don't think there's been like a whole lot of differentiation there, but some of those newer games I feel like have lost the identity a little bit of what makes Halo. But yeah, absolutely, those early shots and just the concept of like Halo itself, right? Like the ring and how it's got its own ecosystem that's completely its own. It's got all these different weird biomes on it. And one of the things that always stuck out to me about Halo 2, now that I'm really thinking about it, is just how grand scale you felt the entire thing was, Like, I remember, like, distinctly playing Halo 2, years and years ago, and looking up into the sky and seeing the ring above you, and then it kind of, like, you see it trail towards you into, like, where you're standing at, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, one of the things that they did so impressively, even back in the day when some of the graphics, even when you felt some of the graphics might have been a little dated, just making the ring and Halo feel like a massive world, even for as linear of a game as it was sometimes, was pretty incredible to think about when you look back on it.
Yeah, Bungie and their skyboxes, man.
Oh, masters. They're masters of it.
That's just one of their signature things.
They're Master Chiefs of it, if you will.
Oh shit. Oh, God. So yeah. Good. Yeah, Halo's definitely in my top 10 all time. Probably we'll have to do that'll be a fun episode someday. We'll go through like our top 10 games.
Oh yeah, I'd love to do that.
That would be a cool thing, and have people write in their own lists and do that. So hey, people out there listening, if that's something you want us to do, let us know and we'll do it.
Yeah, and maybe start thinking of your lists out there. I know it's kind of a difficult thing to put together. So
I always have a hard time with like the lower end, like 10 to 7. I'm like,
yeah, I agree.
There's so many that go there. My first 5, boom, done.
Yeah, instantly. Sometimes I feel like the order switches a little bit. Like in my first 5, like usually the first 5 are pretty solidified, but they start kind of shifting around. Like depending on the year you ask me, I might flip 1 or 2 entries. But yeah, for the most part, I agree.
And then we have, going further into the depths of our Xbox memories, the other big one right now for sure is Gears.
Definitely.
Gears of War. Did you play Gears right when it first came out, or did you when did you kind of first experience that franchise?
No. So I have a weird history with Gears of War. So I've never actually played, other than 5. Gears 5 was the first campaign in a Gears game that I ever beat front to back. But other than that, the way that I was exposed to it was my roommate's cousin, who was a bit older than we were, was kind of a really big fan of the series. He's a big fan of the mythos and the universe. And I remember whenever we would have kind of group sleepovers and stuff, he would bring the Gears games over, but we never actually played through the story campaigns of any of the Gears games. Any exposure that I had to Gears of War back in the day was all through multiplayer. So I remember us playing, the multiplayer and kind of taking turns where, we would sign on to his cousin's account or whatever, and we would just kind of take turns whenever the other person would play a team deathmatch or something. We would play through it and sort of hand off the controller. But it was kind of through him that I started getting the sense of like who these characters are, like, Marcus Phoenix and like Cole and some of those other characters. Like you kind of get the sense of their personality, but I've never played through the games from front to back. And then most recently, last year, I played through Gears 5, which was technically the first Gears of War game that I've played front to back. And there was also a point in time where you and me were kind of going through the first one as well, because they had like the Ultimate Edition come out of the first one that I guess they remastered or whatever for Xbox One, and we'll have to go back and go through that again because that would be a lot of fun. But yeah, I didn't really have a whole lot of exposure to Gears outside of multiplayer, and I feel like it's a series that I missed the boat on just slightly when it comes to the larger story as a whole and what's going on with some of these characters. But Gears 5 I absolutely loved. I mean, I think Kate is a really badass character.
Kate is amazing. Laura Bailey, shout out to Laura Bailey.
Shout out to Laura Bailey.
Just one of the absolute most talented actresses. I'm not even talking about VO, just in general. I mean,
in the biz.
Because I absolutely love Kate Diaz. She's one of my favorite characters from the whole franchise because I think her story is so interesting and has taken Gears to a whole different direction that I never expected, that I really like. But that's honestly, given that you've played the Halos, I think we should absolutely stream us playing through Gears.
That'd be fun. I'd be down for that.
That would be really cool if my stream can hold up.
Right.
In frames of it. That's the only thing that we'll have to see. At the very least, I could capture it and we could drop it on our YouTube, and you can stream it or whatever it'll be. That would just be a lot of fun because that's definitely. I can't say that Gears of War has it just has the greatest story. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's Last of Us. It is not. It doesn't take itself quite as seriously as Halo does. But the world is really interesting. The art style is very unique. I remember when I first saw the Game Informer cover, and they were talking about how big the dudes were, and I was like, I don't know if I like this. But then once you saw it in action, I was like, it just works.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about it. It's definitely got a unique style. Again, another Xbox property that if you put a screenshot of it up against any other thing out there, you would instantly know it's Gears of War, right? I mean, like, the COG armor is so, iconic, and just the way it looks almost kind of reminds me of the Warhammer 40K guys, just in how they have this giant set of armor with these really crazy looking guns. I mean, the chainsaw gun is a super iconic weapon.
And it's so satisfying to use.
Oh, it really is, too. I love it. Just being able to knock some guy in the multiplayer and just run up to him and just chainsaw him down. It feels so satisfying.
I remember dying. I would die in the campaign just trying to get closer to some of these guys so I could chainsaw them.
Right. You just look for any excuse to chainsaw somebody.
It's like, I probably could have just shot and killed him, but... chainsaw!
Rev it up. Yeah. Good.
It's a great franchise. I especially now. Gears 4 was all right. It was the first Gears made by the Coalition, which is Microsoft's own studio that they created after they purchased the license for the series from Epic, because they basically signed Epic to make it exclusively for Xbox, but they didn't own the IP until they bought it. So they bought the IP and they created a new studio for it, and it has the original creative director. Well, it was him and what's the guy's name?
Cliffy B.
Cliff, yeah.
Cliff
Bleszinski. So not him, but there was another gentleman. I can't think of his name right now, but he was like the other kind of director. It
wasn't Tim Sweeney, was it?
No, he's Epic. He's the CEO of Epic.
Oh, okay.
He's the founder of Epic. I'll come up with his name later. I'll correct myself later. It was all just kind of coming up randomly, and I can see him right now. I think his name is Ron something. But anyway, he's a major part of the original games, and he stayed on and is still there. And I think that was really important. It kept kind of his vision for the game, and his touch is still on it. And so it's not just a bunch of new people who had never played it before, never made these games before. So he's still part of it. Great franchise. Bright future. I cannot wait for them to announce Gears 6 for the new Xbox.
Yeah,
I hope that comes out in 2 or 3 years. That'll be that'll be so awesome. especially with the direction they took the fifth one with like some of the free semi-open world areas and stuff, and being able to traverse those and the weird ski thing. It was cool. It was just different.
Yeah, it was. What's your favorite Gears game in the series?
Before 5, I actually had a controversial pick, which was 2. A lot of people didn't like 2 as much. I absolutely love Gears 2, though. Gears 2 had some of the most insane, over-the-top, memorable set-piece moments of like any game I've ever played. I was just like, it just kept going. The game just outdid itself over and over and over again.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really good. But 5, honestly, 5 may have taken it. I really loved 5. It was my game of the year last year. And then I played Control. I'm like, oof, that's tough. Probably would give it to Control very narrowly over Gears 5. Gears 5 is right there. 2 and 5 are absolutely my favorites.
Yeah, that's awesome. I had a ton of fun with 5, and it was kind of the thing that really sold me on the franchise and made me want to go back. So what's the consensus pick? Is it 3? Is 3 the most critically acclaimed Gears game?
Yeah, I'd say 3. I'd say 3 was probably everyone's favorite. It was really good. I think for me, I was just, by the time I reached the end of it, I was ready for it to be over. And it wasn't predictable, but it just didn't have quite the same impact the second one did on me. But it's got some really crazy moments. And the one thing I really liked about the third one was that it ended it. They were not using cliffhangers. It was not set up for a sequel. When they announced Gears 4, I was like, what the fuck are they going to do?
Yeah.
This shit is over. It ties a nice bow on the whole story, on the events. A very, very, very clear-cut end. So
do you feel
I didn't even know how they were going to make a fourth one.
Do you feel like that's part of the reason why maybe 4 isn't looked back on as fondly? It's because
I think so. I think it's also because it wasn't being made by the same development team, and people didn't know what to expect from it. It was a whole new cast of characters, so we weren't going to be with Marcus and Dom and Cole and Baird and all the characters that Anya, all those characters that we get to know through the game. Mm-hmm. It was just like, okay, we're moving on. And then once people started finding out, oh, it's about Marcus Phoenix's son, and the game starts out, they did a good job of not really explaining how this was happening as far as the events of the game. And so it was cool to play it and kind of discover, you're like, oh, dang. And it's a little weird. They had to rename like the enemies because they aren't quite the same enemies that you're fighting in the first one, but they're related to them. So there were some things that was like, okay, well, these are dumb names that they're coming up with because I just want to call this what it was from the last games. Stop giving it new nicknames. Right. That's a drone, damn it. So other than that, little things like that, it won me over. I really liked some of the dialogue was a little cheesy in 4. I felt like 4 had a little bit too much humor. It came out right in the midst of the Marvel craze, and
it's very
I don't hate the Marvel movies. I enjoy the Marvel movies, but I think that they take it a little too far with the ha 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 all the time.
Yeah, it's definitely that kind of thing where you kind of wish they would take themselves just slightly more seriously.
Just a little bit.
They do.
Yeah, so Gears 4 has that to an extent, and not all of the jokes land very well. And the gameplay was good. And I was like, this was all right. This was a decent game. And then 5 came out and just blew me away. I didn't have very high expectations. So when it came out and I played the campaign, I was like, holy crap, this was phenomenal. This is like almost as good as the second one.
That's awesome. So I know I'm kind of belaboring this a little bit more, just because I'm really interested in knowing about it as somebody who was somewhat on the outside looking in for the series. But I know you said 2 was kind of the one that you really liked, but it sounded like maybe it was kind of a black sheep of the series a little bit. Is there anything you can go into about the second one without really spoiling it that would... Why is that one maybe not looked back on as fondly, or maybe as the black sheep?
I think part of it, you know how oftentimes the second of a trilogy is considered the best one because it's dark and edgy and all that, kind of Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
So with the second one, it takes a little while to get going, and it just from an objective standpoint, the story doesn't have a great ending, and the beginning, it's kind of slow, and it moves pretty quick. I think that was like the pacing. I think there was a lot of people were like, it's just really fast paced, and you're just going from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing. And I just remember, I think maybe people took it too seriously. I don't know what it was. I just remember thinking it was just an absolute thrill ride. I was like, this is just ridiculous.
Right.
But that's just kind of how I see Gears of War. Like, Gears of War and Mortal Kombat have a lot more in common than Gears of War and Halo in my mind. Like,
it's a good analogy.
I'm not like, oh my God, it's a Gears of War game. I will say it's a little bit more like that. Kate has grounded that series more than, Marcus was always this really badass, gruff,
action
you just liked
hero.
Him, you rooted for him. Yeah, fuck yeah. That's how he talks, and like, you've got the little reloading mini game where you try to hit the right bumper at that perfect
it's
spot
so
while
satisfying. I love that.
And it's like, if you miss it, you have Marcus, he's like, fuck.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's just really funny to me sometimes. And
it's funny how like machismo is like injected into it for sure.
And there was they're not trying to make these characters the Last of Us cast.
Yeah, they're not Shakespearean.
No, it's
tragic figures.
It's on the nose and it's done well. Coltrane coming in every time he comes in, he kills a bunch of guys. He's all woo.
Yeah,
it's just awesome. They're funny and they're charming, and the gameplay is a blast. And so I don't know. I think people were just. I think the first and third games were such good bookends that the second one just gets lost a little bit in there, because it does have one really serious, memorable moment, like to the point where it's up there with like Last of Us, not necessarily in dramatic quality, I guess, but just I still remember the first time I played it. I was just stunned, like absolutely speechless at a part in the second game. And like that was another reason I liked it, because it's like, this game is just kind of crazy and you just full blast all the time. And then all of a sudden you get to this moment and it's a big tone shift, and maybe people didn't like it, but I don't know. I mean, you get eaten by a giant worm at one point. I mean, it's just, it's just fucking awesome.
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome. It does sound really good, actually.
So yeah, as long as you go into those games with the first three games with the right mindset, you'll enjoy them. And then I feel like the fourth one, they were trying to stick with that theme and that style, that feel, and they just didn't do a very good job of it. And someone decided, hey, let's actually try and make this kind of more serious, and they made Kate the main character, and it kind of grounded it a little bit and gave her a role in the story that was really creative, and like, whoa, I had no idea. And now it's like, just why not change it up, make it more serious? I think you can totally do that, and I'm totally down to play more games as Kate.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it would be really cool if they almost made her the protagonist kind of moving forward, because I
think they will.
They didn't really, to his defense, I didn't really think that they made him I think they made him JD, kind of a unlikable character on purpose in the fifth game, but even throughout that game, I never really thought he was like that great of a character. So I'm much rather interested in knowing about Kate more and seeing her, experiencing the world through her eyes than I would JD. So,
and JD grew on me, but the thing is, you find out something about his past, and it changes the way you see him, and it changes the relationship of the three of them. And I thought that was a really good way of they could have just killed JD. Yeah. Well, we don't know what to do with him, and we actually feel like Kate is the true. I kind of like the idea of starting, when you start a movie and you think that the character you're following and from the first scene is going to be the main character, and then kind of like by the end of it, you're like, oh, this other person's the main character.
Right, yeah.
I kind of like that. I like playing the first game as JD, especially now. Going back to play 4 again, knowing Kate is like the Luke of this storyline. It's kind of a cool... I actually like it a little bit more than I did just because of how good 5 is and knowing what's coming and knowing what those characters are going to do. And I cannot wait to see what they do with 6.
Yeah, same. Yeah, it's going to be exciting. And I'm also excited just in general to play the other games in the series and get more. We will.
Before 6 comes out, we'll absolutely play together. We will play through those games and do experience points on them. I think that'll be awesome.
Yeah, that'd be really super fun. I'd love that.
One other thing I wanted to touch on with Xbox that I don't think it gets credit because it's just ubiquitous now and we don't think about it. But one of my earliest Xbox memories was playing Oblivion with 360. And I know that Oblivion's obviously... It actually was only for 360 at first. It didn't come out for PS3 for a while.
Yeah.
But playing Oblivion and earning an achievement.
Oh, yeah.
That's Microsoft created achievements. That was not a thing in games at all.
They were the first ones to pioneer that sort of system. That's right.
And they don't get the credit for it anymore. And I buy some people's arguments that the setup for trophies is better. You have the ranked ones, bronze and silver and gold, and then of course your platinum for beating the game. And Xbox has always kind of kept it the same. The idea of different achievements are worth different amounts of points, and you can just get all the achievements, and you adds up this big point total. They're similar, but let's not beat around the bush. Sony straight up stole the idea, and that's okay.
Yeah, definitely. But it was a good idea to steal.
It's a great idea. Steal it all you want. Yeah, I don't mean that in a derogatory sense at all. That's not a pejorative. It's just that.
Yeah.
That's why it was such a good idea, and I did not expect that, and somehow at the time I did not know that was going to be a thing. And I remember just kind of being dawning on my mind, like, oh, this is crazy. So I'm going to play this game, it's going to give me points, and it was just so cool.
Yeah, and the crazy thing about it too is that it spawned like basically an entire generation of people who kind of fancied themselves as like completionists, or there's
achievement hunters.
Yeah, achievement hunters and stuff like that. And it became a huge thing to 100% get all the achievements in one game, and then you'd have like guides online of people telling you how to get really particularly hard achievements. One of the main memories I have of achievements, I think I've said this in a previous episode, but I think the only game I've ever gotten all of the achievements in is the original Modern Warfare. Okay. And there was this achievement in the original Modern Warfare that came out in the early 2000s called the Mile High Club. And it was like...
Oh, yeah. Beating that epilogue mission.
Oh, it was so cool. Yeah, you basically had to play it on the hardest difficulty, and you had to clear an entire plane of like terrorists and like save the president in under like a minute and 30 seconds. And so it was kind of one of those things where you would like methodically like get on the plane and you're like, all right, this guy here, throw a grenade here, like just taking guys out until you can finally get fast enough to beat it. And I remember easily one of the most satisfying feelings ever was popping that achievement and just being like, oh shit, I got all of them in this entire game. But weirdly enough, that never stuck with me. Like, I got all the achievements in that game, and then I never was really a big achievement or trophy guy since then. But I think that's probably because a lot of the way that you have to get achievements and trophies these days is to replay the game on a harder difficulty, and I've never really been one to do that. I think in certain games it kind of makes sense, and there's a lot of replayability in going back to an older game on a more difficult setting, but I've always just kind of been the person to play on normal, and then if I want to re-experience the story again or re-experience it, I just play it on normal again. So there wasn't ever really like a huge incentive for me to go back and be like, oh, I got to get all the achievements for Halo 3 or whatever the case was, because I really wasn't interested in going back and playing it on like veteran or whatever the hardest difficulty was.
Yeah, I don't legendary for Halo.
Yeah.
I'm not an achievement hunter, but it's weird because I really enjoy them. When I get them, I like it. Especially now they've really changed it and updated the interface for it, and I love going in. You can compare with other people, and it tells you which ones are rare and which percentage of gamers have gotten this achievement, and it gives you a special little ding when you get one of the rare ones. And it's like, oh, this is so cool. Like I just love the interactivity with the game, and I love to go back and look at all the trophies I have and remember games that I had forgotten about. Like, oh man, I played that.
Right.
It kind of creates a library of your former. Every game you've ever played, if you've got an achievement for it, it's going to pop up on your list. No matter how, I've got games in there from 2005. The original launch 360 launch game King Kong is at the bottom of my list.
What an achievement!
Apparently, that's the first game I played on my 360.
That's crazy. That's so cool, though, in a weird way. Just like a relic of time, a snapshot, if you will.
Yeah. And gosh. I think that's what Xbox has really made its name on. You know, people give them shit for not having enough IPs, and I get it, but at the same time, their innovation with achievements and Xbox Live and UI and controllers, like that to me is the Xbox experience. It's just this really great, streamlined way to experience playing games. It's why I play all my third-party games on it, and Xbox Live has always been incredibly reliable, all the way back when we were playing it on the original Xbox, which I didn't.
Oh, definitely.
I had friends who did. It was so ahead of its time, and I think multiplayer is a big part to Xbox DNA, which is funny because here we are on Solo Gamer Podcast talking about Xbox and how much we love it, and I'm like an Xbox guy, but it really is. It's a huge part of the DNA, and their service has always been the absolute best, and I don't know. It's an interesting ecosystem, man. Especially looking at it now, they had more exclusives with the OG Xbox than they. You know, was Republic Commando a OG Xbox exclusive? I'm pretty sure it was.
Yeah,
maybe PC.
Yeah, it might have been PC at the same time. That's right.
It didn't come out for PS2 though.
No, it didn't. I think especially because back then, I think a lot of the Star Wars games were, if not exclusive to the... I know there were some exclusives to Xbox that were Star Wars games, but I think a majority of them came out for Xbox. At least first. It might have been like a timed exclusive where it was on Xbox or something for half a year to a year and then came out on the other consoles later. But yeah, Republic Commando in particular, I think, was didn't come out for any other system. Such a good game.
What a great game. Yeah.
Totally underrated, too.
Oh, I know. I want a remaster.
I would love a remaster. You know what I'd like even more is I'd really like a sequel even more, but I'll take a remaster.
Yeah, I'd take a remaster and then a sequel.
Right. Yeah. Put out a remaster,
Get
test
DICE
the
to make
waters. Oh, that'd be awesome. I would love that.
They could do it. They'd probably try. EA would try and fuck it up.
Yeah, they'd give you, loot boxes for different skins for your Delta Squad.
Yeah. It would be like Ultimate. It'd be like Clone Ultimate Squad.
Yeah,
and you get like card packs.
They'd lock Sev behind like a $10 paywall. Like you can't get this guy in your squad unless you pay this amount of money.
Yeah, if you pay $10, then you get a 9% chance of unlocking him.
Yeah. Or you could play the game for 80 hours and get enough in-game currency to unlock him.
You can still get it by playing the game. What's the big deal?
Yeah, what are you guys freaking out about over here? You're talking about us trying to milk you for your money.
Fuck, I hate EA.
Yeah, they're awful.
Just the worst. But, just kind of the last things for me, just realizing the OG Xbox is totally underrated for exclusives. Jade Empire. Did you ever play Jade Empire?
No, I haven't. I own it, though.
So good. I found a physical copy of the special edition at a Zia Records in Phoenix a few years back for $10.
That's exactly the one that I have, actually.
So that game is amazing.
What kind of game is it?
It's BioWare.
Well, I mean, like what is an RPG.
Yeah, it's BioWare.
So it's like a single player, like story driven,
third person, create your own character, choose your dialogue option, RPG.
Yeah, we gotta play that too.
It's except for it's real time action. It's real time combat. It's not turn based.
That's awesome. Yeah,
but that's it. I mean, it is.
We gotta play that.
It is literally a BioWare RPG. It's like KOTOR with live action combat.
That's so cool.
Or real time combat. It's not live action. That would be difficult.
Live action.
Jade Empire, phenomenal game. Obviously, KOTOR.
KOTOR, yeah.
There was a game I played called Advent Horizon, which was really cool. It was supposed to be this huge franchise, but didn't sell and never made another game.
Right.
It's like this sci-fi universe they created that was really cool. It was like based on some book series, I guess. I'm not a big racer guy, but Forza is a huge one.
Yeah, Forza is always a series I've respected.
Yeah, it's great.
You know, I've never been a big racing guy either, other than like kart racers and stuff. But whenever it's going to happen one of these days, I do want to try out a racing game, whether it be like Forza or Gran Turismo or whatever. But I think Forza will be the first one that I try. So that'll be sometime in the future. But yeah, I've heard they do a really good job with those games.
Yeah, and I don't know, man. It just looking back at all these, I just feel like Xbox just does not get credit.
Don't forget about the physical box copy of Counter-Strike Source that came out.
Of course, yes.
For Xbox.
I used to play that and be like, "What is the point of this game?" Because I didn't have live.
Yeah, they don't.
Like, this game sucks.
Yeah, they didn't have aim down sights. You know what else is another crazy relic from the original Xbox is so obviously when you get to like the 360 and later on, you had the orange box which had all of the Valve games kind of packaged into it.
Right.
But as far as I know, the original Xbox is the only place where you can get Half-Life 2, like just the game Half-Life 2, not on PC.
Interesting.
It's the only console standalone version of that game. So I don't know why
I did not know that.
Yeah, they should have brought the first one too. But yeah, so because I saw it at a retro game store one day, and I was like, "Oh, this would be really cool to have." And then I found out that was the only, outside of the orange box, which is like a giant collection of like Team Fortress and a bunch of the other ones. That's the only standalone console Half-Life game that's ever been released. So it's really interesting.
Well, hopefully we'll see that. We'll see console versions of Half-Life someday.
Right. Or Half-Life 3. Confirmed?
Yeah. Confirmed. Broken here on TSG.
Yeah, you heard it here first, folks.
Gabe. I've got Gabe right here.
Mr.
I saw
Newell
him in Seattle and I recorded him. He's like, "Yeah, we're working on it right now."
We got him on the horn. He's calling in live to the show.
Just hanging out in a random corporate parking lot in Bellevue.
Yeah.
Hey, it's Gabe Newell. Oh, man. Yeah. But lots of great games, man. Remedy got started with them. They made the Max Payne games on OG Xbox, and then they went on to make like the Alan Wake for 360 that was exclusive. And there's a lot of games that people kind of forget about. Jade Empire, Crimson Skies. What a fun, dumb game for the original Xbox. I'm just going through all these memories now. I'm like, holy shit, man.
The name sounds familiar, but I can't
It was a plane game, and you had all these different kinds of planes that flew around, and yeah.
Did it have like a woman on the front cover?
It had I can't remember. It had a couple different people. It had a red plane with like crossed X wings, a prop plane.
Okay.
And a guy in it, and he was like, and he was shooting at the cover or something like that.
He was like, yeah.
He was like,
Here's an interesting question. And then maybe we'll get into some write-ins too, because we have a couple of them here. But
yeah, we'll wrap it up with write-ins.
Are there so one of the things that I was thinking of, before we kind of do a lot of the shows here, I kind of write some notes to myself so that way I can follow along and know what to touch on. But one of the interesting things I thought to ask is that To me, there are a lot of Xbox. Well, they're not really. So they're multi-platform games, but there's a lot of franchises that I've seen throughout the years that I always associate with Xbox, even though they're not actually Xbox themed. And my criteria for a lot of those games are ones that kind of were started on PC and were a little bit more Western centric or have a little bit more Western sensibility. Or, a lot of the reasons
Definitely.
a lot of the reasons I think of them too are, if there's like a previous entry in the series that started out on Xbox and later became multi-platform. So there was like a lot of franchises that I thought of that aren't necessarily Xbox only now, but that I always associate with that. Do you have any franchises like that you always think of?
I have a lot, but that's mainly because that's where I played almost all my games.
Right, that's true.
If it wasn't exclusive. So, I think of one we brought up was Oblivion.
Yep.
Because that was only on 360 to start. And then even when Skyrim came out, it was a piece of shit on PS3.
Yeah, that version of it was horrible.
And Todd Howard came out and just said, that thing is impossible design for the PS3. We really prefer the Xbox.
Yeah, I was going to say, I own all of the Elder Scrolls physical games I own are all on Xbox consoles. So.
And that's because Morrowind was, of course, we didn't talk about Morrowind. I don't know how.
Yeah.
My God. That's like a landmark game for the Xbox. That was one of the first role-playing games of that kind on console.
Of that ilk.
People didn't think you could have a console RPG like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's a PC series prior to that. So that was a big-time game for that console. And I think of Morrowind, I think of Xbox, and that's where I stuck with Elder Scrolls.
Right. Yeah, that one's on there for me as well. Here's some of the games that I was thinking of that are multi-platform but always tied to me to the Xbox brand. I always buy these series of games on Xbox. So the ones I can think of are the Batman games, all the Arkham games I always play on Xbox consoles. Anything Call of Duty I always get for Xbox. More recently, the newer Doom games I always get on Xbox. Elder Scrolls.
Shooters in general to me.
Shooters and multiplayer centric.
I don't think I'd ever buy a
franchises.
first-person shooter on PlayStation if it was also available on Xbox.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I picture them the same way. I feel like Xbox is almost the de facto multiplayer-centric ecosystem. And that goes back to what you mentioned earlier with them having that rock-solid architecture through years and years of online play and stuff like that. So, some other ones I always think of when I think of Xbox is Hitman. The Hitman games I always play on Xbox. Mortal Kombat I always play on Xbox.
I think of it's split. Obviously Xbox now, but when I hear Mortal Kombat, I immediately think Super Nintendo.
Yeah, that too. That's another one. Well, Doom I think is another one of those ones you could think of Nintendo probably as well there, but I don't know. Just for some reason, I've always played them on Xbox.
Now that you're saying this, for one absolutely one that fits this criteria for me is Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, that was. What's funny is that was the exact next one on my list was Assassin's Creed.
I'm not kidding or exaggerating. I don't think I've ever even seen a screenshot or a gameplay video with Assassin's Creed on a PlayStation console. And if I saw a triangle prompt in an Assassin's Creed game, I might just have a heart attack.
You might recoil in disgust.
I don't even, obviously I'm a huge Sony fan. I love. It's not like this is not coming from a place of like, fuck Sony, I'm an Xbox guy. There's just something. Assassin's Creed is an Xbox series in my head. I could never imagine playing that game with a controller that wasn't an Xbox controller ever.
It's so true. I totally agree. But
you have any more of those? Those are interesting because I haven't really thought. I did not think about that until you brought it up.
Yeah, I got two more. So Assassin's Creed you mentioned. Sports games I always play on Xbox, so if I ever get like 2K or something or any of the Madden games, always is on Xbox. And then the last two I had were Titanfall and Wolfenstein.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wolfenstein for sure. Shooters, yep. Both of them. Destiny too for me. Even though actually when I do play Destiny, I play it on PC now.
Yeah.
I still can't. I have to use the fucking controller. Bungie designs shooters for controllers. I'm sorry.
I think they do. I think that's probably a worthwhile thing.
Because any other shooter on PC, I'll play mouse and keyboard. There's no you'd be dumb not to. But
right,
Destiny just feels right on a controller.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. So that was all the ones I had
funny.
On my list. But those were like,
that's
and
really
then
cool.
Then there's some other ones that like I don't really have like any. There's some franchises I don't have any exposure to that I would have put on this list as well. Like, had I had a history with Mass Effect, that's where I would put it in Xbox.
Oh,
as well.
yeah, the original one was exclusive.
Yep, and then Dragon Age I would probably put there as well.
Same, original one was exclusive for a little while, I think.
Yep, anything in the BioShock universe I'd probably put there.
If you want to go further back, I mean, obviously, because these are actual exclusives, so I guess it doesn't count unless you're talking about PC. But KOTOR 1 and 2 were only on Xbox.
Yeah, exactly.
They never came to PS2, which I think is an outrage.
It is kind of weird, right?
How many people have not played KOTOR because it wasn't available on PS2?
A lot. I know quite a few people
nuts.
who have never played any of the KOTOR games.
It's like one of the great games of all time.
Yeah, it's
That's
awesome.
just weird to me.
It'd be a little bit difficult, I think, for people to go back to it nowadays. But
maybe
if
they're big enough Star Wars fans, though, that's hard. It's hard for me to even go back to like KOTOR in some ways because I'm just so bummed that it doesn't exist and all we have are these sequel fucking movies.
Yeah, exactly. I think if you're somebody who fancies yourself a Star Wars fan, like if you would say like Star Wars or like, you know, in your top 3 favorite anything ever, then definitely go back to KOTOR. But I think just for the average Joe who wants to break into a Star Wars game, it's not going to be super accessible for somebody to go back to. You can play it on PC though if you're feeling adventurous.
It looks fine. Yeah, it's available on Steam.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, well, let's finish up the episode with some write-ins. I have a couple. They're kind of more about the new Xboxes. I was gonna say Xboxes, which sounds weird. The new Xbox consoles coming out.
Xbox eye.
How about yours? What are yours kind of pertaining to?
Same sort of thing. So I know we got some responses on Twitter, and then I've got one on Instagram. So
both of mine are from Facebook.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Well, why don't you go first? We'll have you do one.
All right.
We'll switch.
Well, we have two comments about the systems. Danny says, I'm more excited about the announcement of EA Play coming to Game Pass. That brings a large amount of games I personally haven't played yet, so really looking forward to adding all of them to my list. So he's referring to our backlogs as well.
Right? You mean the
episode.
Backlog.
And Tim wrote in, and he said, super ready to get another system and have all these games that I will never get around to beating. EA Play going to Game Pass is pretty sweet, though. So I feel like everyone was really surprised by that move on their part.
Yeah, that was a very non-EA thing to do. I think everybody was kind of taken aback. I was taken aback by it for sure.
You know? It's very shrewd. It's a very, sensible thing. They're like, well, we both are offering these things. The likelihood that people are going to get both is now really low, so let's combine them. Microsoft must have just paid EA a nice sum of money, and more people are going to sign up for the service now.
Yeah, I mean, Xbox was talking in the only language that EA speaks, and that's money.
Money. So. Cold, hard cash.
Yeah.
Those are the two write-ins that I got.
Okay, awesome. So I got one from Facebook here, and it's from my good buddy Jacob, one of my best friends, so shout out to Jacob. Jacob said, back in the day, my favorite original Xbox games were Fable, Blinks the Time Sweeper, where you played as a cat with a time-manipulating vacuum, and Pirates of the Caribbean, which really had nothing to do with the movies and was a buggy mess, but I loved it because, well, pirates. So my friend Jacob is like he's a really big pirate guy. Like there's a couple different like genres of things that he really, really likes. And that's pirates. And then, gosh, I can't think of the other one, but yeah, basically anything pirate themed, he is down for. There was
how funny
a long time ago when Sea of Thieves first came out. This is kind of just a side story, but Sea of Thieves first came out a while ago, and which is also an Xbox property.
I was just thinking about that in my head when you were talking about the pirates. I'm like, oh, Sea of Thieves then.
Yeah,
Xbox is for you.
Right. Well, when Sea of Thieves first came out, I wasn't really like super interested in it, but like
Same.
He sent me a message and he was like, "Hey, will you play Sea of Thieves with me? Like just like humor me, please, and just play it with me." And I was like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" So we played it together, and I haven't really played much of it since then. I'm more into watching it now than I am playing it. So.
Yeah. Well, both of our streamer buddies made their bones on Sea of Thieves.
Yeah. Oh, was that pun intended?
Maybe.
Like skull and crossbones, Jolly Roger. Pirates.
All right, read the next. Right in.
All right. Gosh. All right. So here's some ones we got. From Twitter at the Solo Gamer Pod on Twitter. Please follow us. Appreciate it. We got a write in from our good buddy Miles. Miles writes in and he says, "I'm truly just hoping I'll enjoy how the new Halo game looks, enough to even be interested in buying the new Xbox. And even then, after my jump to PC, I don't have much incentive. I think this new Xbox generation looks great, but I'm not sure if I want to get it at all, honestly." So, Miles expressing a little bit of hesitation with this new generation of Xbox and sort of jumping into it, which is understandable. It's
understandable, absolutely.
I feel like there's definitely certain parts of Microsoft and parts of the Xbox ecosystem that aren't for everybody, and so I think that those feelings are valid.
I also think that the way I'm looking at this brand is just not the same, I think, as many people are. I don't really, when I say Xbox, I no longer really am talking about the consoles necessarily. I'm talking about when I say Xbox, I almost equate it more to being like Steam.
Yeah, an ecosystem, a community.
That's what they are. It's a platform. You know, he was like, "Oh, I don't have any reason to buy an Xbox because I have a PC." It's like, well, let me tell you, man. According to Microsoft, you own an Xbox. It's called your PC.
Basically.
They made an app for it, and if you want Game Pass, you can get a cheaper version with PC only games, and all of the first party titles that are going to be exclusive to the console will be available to you if you play on PC. So Microsoft doesn't give a shit if you buy their console because they sell consoles at a loss.
Yeah.
So in fact, they're going to offer the console to those of us people who don't have powerful PCs. You and I both do, but I still enjoy console gaming. But there's plenty of people out there where even though it's cheaper in the long run to PC game, it's more expensive up front to play PC games. And so people oftentimes just end up getting a console. So if they want to play the Xbox games, they get them. But at this stage, Xbox is evolving, morphing into something else. And Microsoft is totally happy with people who are like, I don't want an Xbox. I only play PC. Like, great.
Yeah.
You have an Xbox then.
Yeah, I mean, you're pretty much part of the ecosystem as well at that point. And I think that was something that Xbox, that was actually one of the things that exiting out of the Xbox One generation and going into Xbox Series X, that I really wanted to see them do is start to bridge the gap more between the consoles and the PC market. Yeah. And honestly, I can't recommend Game Pass for PC enough. I mean, it's such a good value for what you get, and I don't know how much longer it's going to be at the price point that it is because it's such an amazing value. I think that it's like you can't go up, if you're a PC gamer, you can't sleep on it. It's going to go up at some point in time, but right now it's I think for Ultimate it's like $15 a month or something.
And the first well, I think it's even cheaper for because Ultimate includes the console and the PC. So if you're a PC only gamer, you don't need the Ultimate. You just need the PC one, and it's even cheaper than that.
Yeah,
it's like $10 a month for the PC one.
So gosh, and the library that they have of games up there. I mean, we've talked about them already. I mean, you've got Gears is up there. You got Halos. You bring in the Master Chief Collection to it.
For the price of 2 full price brand new games, you get Game Pass and all the games that are on there for a whole year.
Yeah, and you get all the new release ones too. So anything that's coming out, day one, you're going to have access to.
Yeah,
Halo Infinite
saves you money. It saves you tons of money.
Yeah, Halo Infinite, and next year when the world's burned down, we'll be able to play Halo, Infinite day one.
I'll play Halo Infinite until I die of smoke
inhalation. Right, exactly. It's a deal you just can't beat, man. And I think that's Miles. I think that's valid, but yeah, I think that check out some of the library of games that they have on there. I think that the odds are that you're going to find something that you're interested in are astronomically high. But other than that, we got one other write-in. This is on Twitter from Knight Commander David at Vault Chaplain. He writes a big response here. He says, I think the price for Series S is a great deal to get people in the door for next generation. The name sucks, though. I preferred Lockhart, but it'll do. My favorite IP is probably Fable. Playing it just reminds me of my childhood, and I'm glad another one is coming. And then he writes in, my earliest Xbox memory is of my uncle buying me Halo 2 for my birthday, and then the same day convincing me to let him borrow it. And he'll let me borrow his PS2 and all of his games, so he made kind of a bargain there, yeah. 6 months later, my mother walks into my room, asks where my Xbox is, and I tell her, and she was pissed. She made a call to my uncle, and I'll just say I could hear from upstairs, LOL. He had it back in 30 minutes. So.
Oh, that's amazing.
Sounds like his uncle was like, hey, kid, give me their shiny new Xbox. I'll let you borrow my PS2.
Oh, that's great. That's a good story.
That is really cool.
Yeah. Fable. We didn't really talk about Fable because I've never been a huge Fable fan. But I know how close it is to so many hearts, and it's a big-time Xbox franchise, and they're making a new one, which is exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. That made a huge splash at the last big-time showcase that they had. They announced a new Fable game. It's probably a ways off, I would assume. But
yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it was making some huge waves, and I'm excited. Yeah, I'd like to talk about it more. I've never played a Fable game, but I would love to go back to one of the previous entries when we get some time.
They remastered them, so.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I have all 3 of them and have access to it. Just never got around to getting to it yet. So.
Right, exactly. Yeah, just lots of games to play.
So many.
Were there any other write-ins?
No, that was it. That was what we got.
That was it.
Thank you for writing in, everybody.
We got some response. Yeah, we got some pretty good response to Xbox.
Yeah, we did.
Eventually we'll do Sony. Once they announce all the Sony shit, we'll do a Sony episode.
Yeah, they're. I think at the time we're recording this too, they have a. They're going to announce their price here soon. I think on tomorrow or Wednesday. So.
Oh, all right. Well, then maybe next week will be a Sony episode.
Yeah, just maybe. So keep on the lookout for that.
About damn time.
I know. The game of chicken is over.
Mm-hmm. All right, friends. Well, another week. Sorry for the delay. We'll be back on regular schedule next week, so we will see you next Monday. But until then, that will do it for us. My name is Ian, joined by Taylor as always. We are signing out of here. We'll see you next week. Hopefully talking about the PS5 and reminiscing on all those sort of games. All right, everybody. Later.
See you guys. Stay safe.